What's up, people in the interwebs? I hope you are having a terrifying day, and welcome to the Halloween Spooktacular of 2020. And in today's video, a lot of you really liked the spooky short stories I read the other day, so we are back reading some more spooky tales. So let's bring on the spooky atmosphere and let's read some terrifying tales. So our first tale is called Crying Isn't Going to Help by Honest Rage. I pointed the gun at the sick bastard who killed my wife. He sobbed as he feared for what was to come. I pulled the trigger. If only he spoke and tried to reason with me, then maybe he could have lived. But that was obviously not going to happen after all. He was only born just a few minutes ago. Moving on to number 2. This tale is from I Post at Midnight and it's called Why Limb Free. Okay, we need to stop the spookiness, we need to pause it all. So quick pause of what's going on here. This is actually not the name of the spooky story. I'm not going to tell you what it is now, I'm going to wait to the end because if I tell you now then it kind of ruins the tale. But my god, am I an idiot for what I actually pronounced it. You're going to literally smack your head and think, Kirsty, what are you playing at? Anyway, let's return back to your normal broadcasting and let's return back to this spooky tale. Little Emily vanished last year. Now they're pouring new sidewalk in my neighbourhood and I found her name in the wet cement, written in remembrance. But it was written kind of odd. It was written in reverse and from below. Okay, we're pausing the show again and this is why I'm an idiot. Obviously with this tale, little Emily obviously fell in the hole where they're building the new sidewalk, and then obviously they poured cement, and then obviously being trapped under the wet cement, she wrote her name as a last sign of trying to get help, but it didn't work. She died in the cement, and that's like the last remembrance. So the title, when I said it was Why Limb Free, it's actually Emily backwards, and I'm a complete numpty that I didn't clock onto that straight away. I'm actually going to keep the audio bit here when I actually clocked on that it's actually Emily backwards, and it's called Why Limb Free. Oh, you know what? I've actually just clicked this. It actually says Emily backwards. But yeah, I had a complete blonde moment right there. But let's return back to the spooky atmosphere and we've got 3 more tales to read. So let's start off with number 3 and no more stupid reading mistakes from me. So let's get back to it. Moving on to number 3 and it is called The Happiest Day of My Life by Ree Claudas. I've probably butchered the name, but I think we're just learning in today's video that Kirsty just cannot read titles of stories' names. But let's begin the tale. I watched as my soon-to-be father-in-law held his daughter's hand as he walked down the aisle. Tears streamed down his face as the wedding march that played in the background reminded him that in a few minutes he would be watching me hold his daughter's hand and slipping on her ring. He walked up to the altar and I took hold of her hand. Grinning from ear to ear, it was the happiest day of my life. My bride's father got down on his knees and started begging. Please, I did what you asked. Just please give me back my daughter. I glared at him. Shut up and stop ruining the moment. If you sit back down and enjoy the ceremony, then maybe I'll tell you where I've hidden the rest of the body. On to tale number 4, called The Guardians by Dark Alligator. He awoke to a huge insect-like creature looming over his bed and screamed his lungs out. They hastily left the room and he stayed up all night, shaking and wondering if it had been a dream. The next morning, there was a tap on the door. Gathering his courage, he opened it to see one of them gently place a plate filled with fried breakfast on the floor. Then it retreated back to a safe distance. Bewild, he accepted the gift. The creatures chittered excitingly. This happened every day for weeks. At first he was worried they were fattening him up, But after a particularly greasy breakfast left him clutching his chest from heartburn, they were replaced with fresh fruit, as well as cooking. They poured hot steamy baths for him, and even tucked him in when he went to bed. It was bizarre. One night he awoke to gunshots and screaming. He raced downstairs to find a decapitated burglar being devoured by one of these insects. He was sickened, but disposed of the remains as best as he could. He knew they had just been protecting him. One morning, the creatures wouldn't let him leave his room. He lay down, confused but thrusting, as they ushered him back into bed. Whatever their motives, they weren't going to hurt him. Hours later, a burning pain spread throughout his body. It felt like his stomach was filled with razor wires. The insects chittered as he spasmed and moaned. It was only when he felt a terrible squirming feeling beneath his skin that he realized the insects hadn't been protecting him, they had been protecting their young. Moving on to our final tale, called The Accident by Min Boy. It was 1 AM and Guy Halverson sat in his dark living room. He hadn't moved for over an hour. The accident earlier that evening kept playing over and over in his mind. The light turned red, but he was in a hurry and accelerated. An orange blur came from his right, and in a split second, there was a violent jolt. Then the cyclist rolled across the hood of his car and fell out of sight onto the pavement. Horns blared angrily, and he panicked, stepping on the gas and screeching away from the chaos into the darkness. Shaken and keeping an eye on his rearview mirror until he got home. Why didn't you run, you idiot? He never committed a crime before this and punished himself by imagining years in jail, his career gone, his family gone, his future gone. Why not just go to the police right now? You can afford a lawyer. Then someone tapped on the front door and his world suddenly crumbled away beneath him. They found me. There was nothing he could do but answer it. Running would only make matters worse. His body trembling, he got up, went to the door and opened it. A police officer stood under the porch light. "Mr. Halverson?" asked the grim officer. He let out a defeated sigh. "Yes." Mr. Halverson, I'm terribly sorry to say, but I'm afraid I have some bad news. Your son's bike was struck by a hit-and-run driver this evening. He died at the scene. I'm very sorry for your loss. And there you guys have it. That is all the spooky tales for today. Let's remove the spooky atmosphere. And that's everything. If you have enjoyed today's video, please leave it a like. Let me know in the comments down below which tale you enjoyed the most. Definitely check out the link in the description below where I found all these stories from. All of these originally came from Reddit, and this website has picked out the best ones. The website I used was actually really good, since if you actually want to read the tales originally on Reddit from the creators, they have hyperlinks straight to their page. So this is a really good website for crediting all the amazing writers who wrote these short spooky tales. So definitely check it out, since there's some definitely more spooky tales I haven't read it from this website, so it's definitely worth a read. And that is everything. And just remember guys, keep being spooky, keep being amazing, and I'll see you in the next spooky video. Bye!